Hey guys, it is your girl Shatanya Ami, and I am here today with a wonderful, wonderful person. Her name is Kiana Cole, and today we are going to be talking about mindfulness. You guys know from past podcasts that I love to talk about mindfulness, living a mindful life, meditation, and different ways to just pursue your happiness and get to that better place, get to your higher self, and that is the mission. So that's the mission for today. But Kiana is a little bit not that she's different, but she has a unique talent that she works with children, and our children really, really need to be mindful. And I feel like that's the best place to start, with our children. We need to get our children started in the beginning stages of their life and teaching them mindfulness because it creates amazing adults. So I'm going to get Kiana to introduce herself and what it is she does, and then we're going to get to know Kiana a little bit more.
Well, yes. Well, I'm really, really happy to be here. Like you said, my name is Kiana Cole, and I actually have a brand called Kicking It with Key that started as just me trying to share my journey as an educator because I was teaching in the public school system and just trying to get a better idea of self-care. Because I just felt like it was so important, and not enough teachers were practicing self-care.
Right.
But then over time, I realized that mindfulness and self-care education really had my heart. And so I said, what better place to do it than to take the skills I learned as a teacher. And honestly, I'm an educator for life. Regardless of wherever I go in life, I know I'm going to educate. And so I decided to educate in the field of like mindfulness and self-care. And so my specialty is working with teachers and students. But I also work with lots of different groups. And one of my favorite groups to work with is Black women as well. So I enjoy working with both. Like I always tell people, I work with ages 4 to 104.
Exactly.
So if you give me any person,
is if they got a mind, I can work with it.
Yeah, I will work with any age group because my time as an educator in DC public schools really afforded me and my time at Howard University, getting my degree in elementary education, afforded how people work and what they need and form relationships. And that's really truly at the core of teaching mindfulness. It's just really understanding what people might need. And so I help people cut the noise, and get rid of distractions and get closer to purpose. And we do this with mindfulness, self-care, and community care. So yeah, I'm happy to be here to talk about this. I love children. I love students. I think they are the most miraculous beings on earth. So such a great group to work with. So happy to be here, and I'm glad you invited me.
Yes, girl. When how I got to know Kiana, I met her via Clubhouse, and which is, a friend of mine invited me to Clubhouse, and it was so funny because I have been seeing people talk about Clubhouse, and I was so dead against adding another app, and I'm like, I'm already addicted to too much stuff. I don't want to. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. Like I need to get off these platforms. And my friend, she's also like a life coach, a mindfulness coach. She is a Reiki healer. And she said, no, get on, I'm going to invite you and I'm going to take you through the steps or whatever. And I was like, all right, reluctantly just jumped on to Clubhouse with, I think in the back of my mind, no intentions of using it. But then when I started getting into these rooms, especially like the room that I saw you in, the Tribe Flow Clubhouse, I was like, okay, I found my tribe. Like this is like, and I was literally on the in the different rooms for hours that day. And I remember sitting with Corey Simpson and you guys, and I was just like, wow, okay, I'm loving this. So that's how I got to know of Kiana, and just knowing, like hearing what she did. And I'm just like, I had spoke to some people here in New York about getting meditation put into the school systems here. And so when I heard you talking about it, I was like, wow, yeah, this is definitely something that needs to go down. But before we get into that, I want to, give a background about, because I know that most people that get into either mindfulness or get into meditation or get into self-care and healing, there's always a journey before there. So I like to get into the person from the beginning. So I just wanted to know if you could share with us. Just tell us about yourself and where you grew up and how you grew up. And just tell us a little bit about your life, like little Kiana.
I love talking about little Kiana because she was a firecracker.
Yay!
She really was. Because people have always joked that I've been wise beyond my years, but I've always felt like just in tune, like with my emotions. Like I used to be really emotional. Well, I still am.
Right.
And I used to think it was a bad thing because people told me it was a bad thing.
Yes.
Like, oh, you're so sensitive. And I was like, why aren't you?
Right. People try to train us out of, because I was a sensitive child too. I was an empathic child as well. And people really do try to train you out of your emotions. So it's so crazy when you become an adult, you have to retrain yourself to understand and feel your emotions because we've been trained that emotions are not good. Like we have to not be sensitive, not cry, not. That's so crazy. Okay, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, you're fine. I 100% agree with you on that because the reality is our emotions teach us things about ourselves. And so I've always been somebody who could cry easily and would, I always say I feel the depths of every emotion. Like if I'm angry, I'm really angry. If I'm sad, I'm really sad. And I used to wonder, I used to wonder like, God, why you got me feeling like this? And then what I learned though, what was revealed to me later was like, you needed to feel these things so that you can help other people work through their emotions. The only way you can truly help somebody process the things that they're feeling is to have felt it. And kind of understand what they're feeling, So and true. I feel like little Kiana and what little Key, little Kiki.
Yes.
She definitely felt a lot of stuff. And I grew up in the South. I grew up in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, which I carry that with me every day because I feel like that's a huge part of why I am the way I am. Southern hospitality is a real thing, and it definitely still resides within me everywhere I go. And I feel like growing up in a little city, what I would say a little city with a big heart, it taught me to build connections with people. We didn't have a lot to do down there. Okay. So we spent a lot of time with our friends and with our families and at the house having barbecues and cookouts and going to football games and having basketball games. Like we did all of the quintessential Southern things.
It sounds like a Lifetime movie. I love it. Like as you're describing it, I see it. I'm like, oh, because I lived in New York and that definitely was not that.
I know it. I already know. And just growing up down there, and not even realizing that, I grew up around majority Black people. I didn't realize that wasn't normal until I went to Howard and met other people who had spent their whole lives around people of other races. And I was like, oh, how was that? Because I spent time only with Black people. And so I learned to love Black people for all of the different ways that we present ourselves in the world. And so that gave me a deep self-love, and then my mom would, she would also pour into me and tell me how amazing and beautiful. And she would be at everything and show up to everything. And then and then I was the youngest of 3 as well, and so it was an interesting time. And I won't say, our city had a lot of violence, a lot of gang violence, a lot of problems, a lot of issues in the schools, but that actually informed a lot of the things that I do now, being able to understand, I always say, I'm not necessarily what you would call hood, but I'm hood adjacent. I grew up with people who didn't grow up the way I did, and that's the reason why I could understand people of different groups and understand that it's what people see as terrible folks. I'm like, you don't even understand what they've been through.
Right. There's a story behind everything.
Yeah, and so I valued growing up around any person that I grew up around, whether it be somebody that grew up like me or didn't grow up like me, because we were I would say lower to upper to middle class.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I would say that we are. But I grew up as, because my parents both had jobs. Of course, I had both parents in the home.
Hello?
Accountant for the government.
Okay.
And so, what people would say is oh, you had the quintessential nuclear family, but we still had a lot of, struggles and challenges.
Right.
And I think that's so interesting because you think that it's relationships are super easy and that things just work when you got both parents in the house, and that's not always the case.
Right.
And so things happen. Like you learn in your city, like our city swallows people. I would say that.
Wow.
Like if you don't have the right people on your team supporting you, reminding you are great, like the right teachers, the right people encouraging you, it swallows Black men specifically. It swallows Black men whole. Like it would literally take like someone who, you know, was the most gentle, sweet, amazing child and turn them into somebody who feel like they've had to fear for their lives, so they had to protect themselves with guns.
And so that's interesting, because that's, you know, when you mentioned that you grew up in Arkansas, that was the question I was going to ask you, because, you know, from the outside looking in and being so far from Arkansas and never being there, you assume, and the fact that you say you grew up around majority Black people, that's the opposite of what I would have thought. So that was going to be the question, like, what is it growing up Black in Arkansas? But you're definitely hitting the notes that was sticking out to me, like, how is it growing up Black in Arkansas? And that is crazy. So, you know, what you saying about the Black men, being a Black man in Arkansas, go continue on. I'm sorry about that. But it's just like that was the main thing that
my city was predominantly Black. And I also grew up basically I grew up on the campus of an HBCU. That's another part of my story that makes it so interesting. Because being Black in mindfulness, people aren't expecting you to be in this field.
Right,
like, you know, to take care of yourself. People don't expect that. Even though, let's be clear, like, Black people have communally taken care of each other for generations.
Right.
But now we're learning to make sure we're okay, and then basically make sure I'm okay first, and then make sure everybody else is okay. Because from my okayness and from my goodness, and when I'm feeling good and well, then I can then everybody else's goodness and being okay will flow out of that, because community care is self-care. Self-care is community care. It literally works in tandem. So we have to make sure we're okay first, so we can pour out into our communities.
Exactly.
So, growing up in Arkansas was interesting. It was interesting, and I value it like I have never valued any other place in the world, because it was a place that if you came, you would be like, oh, you know, this is not anything. And then you would go into the schools and learn things about the children or about the people there, and how much it truly is a community. Even in its violence and even in its hard times, it's still a community, and still a place where people can grow, learn, and become amazing, successful people.
It's interesting to me, because I feel like inner cities and cities like your city that you mentioned, you wouldn't expect it, but it is a strong connection and a strong bond, because I feel like the mindset is, we're in this together and we have to save and support each other, because no one else is going to do it. So I feel like there is that family, that village that does come when you live in those type of communities. Sometimes we're in a suburban, upper middle class or wealthy community, everyone's so separate because they feel like, well, we're good. So it's like that sense of community, even though they may be neighboring and, you know, friends with the neighbors and take over baked goods, but I think that sense of community is not there. So that's what I've gathered, because I do remember when I was growing up, and I used to go visit my aunt during the summer. She lived in the projects, and it was like a pretty rough project in Queens. Everybody was always looking out for each other, and everyone knew each other. Everyone watched everyone's child. And if someone was out there and they came to bring snacks for their kid, they brought snacks for the next person's kid too. So that sense of community I loved. And even when on my older years, I went to go stay with her because I was going through a transition in my life. I remember that standing outside waiting for a cab late at night, these guys who you would deem as thugs, and some people may grab their bags and hold it thinking that they're going to rob them, literally stopped and waited until I got into a cab before they continued on walking, to make sure that I got in my car safely. Never spoke to me, didn't know who they were, but they made sure that I was okay. So that I love that sense of community that you describe, that's in the inner city, that's in your, community.
Yeah. And I'm like I said, I'm truly grateful for it. So growing up there was definitely an opportunity for me to see myself as a full human being, a full Black person. We functioned as a community.
Mm-hmm.
And so it didn't always look like it. And I think that's the piece that was always important to note, that it won't always look like it's functioning the way it's not going to always function in the best way necessarily. But that's why people like me and other people in my class, that I went to high school with and in my generation are really trying to, even if they left the city, but come back in a way to support. I've been back a few times, not even just to see my family, because I go back at least twice a year. But good. I went back for a more for educational purposes. Okay. I was a part of the Freedom School community, which basically is for culturally relevant literacy in the city, because that's what Black kids deserve. That's what every child deserves. Exactly. Every child of color knows what it's like to sit in the classroom and not feel seen in the textbooks.
Right. So, at all.
So that's what we did. And that's mindfulness too. People don't understand mindfulness is everywhere. Every decision that you make, every choice you choose is your opportunity to be mindful. Are you on autopilot? Right. Or are you being mindful?
Right.
So, yeah.
And we are quick to be on autopilot, because I have to snap myself out of being on autopilot. And with that being said, when did you start your spiritual journey? Did you grow up in a spiritual household? Were you guys religious? Or when did you start your journey and really start to acknowledge the gifts? And, because as you said, you was a sensitive kid, and clearly now as an adult, we know that that's basically you being an empath. But when did you start your spiritual journey and tapping into, your true self? When did you start that?
I would say, I definitely had a household that really knew God. Okay. We went to church every Sunday. Mm-hmm. So we were practicing Christians. Okay. And so my spiritual journey started with that, really just, and then growing up in a church where I felt like that things weren't always being done correctly. It was great. It was a beautiful community, but I didn't always fit in tune with the leadership of the church when I was growing up there.
The same thing for me. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
So I was so basically my family founded that church. So that's the reason why we were going there. But of course, my family weren't the people that were the pastoral leadership by the time I was old enough to recognize anything. By that time, they were just the trustees and stuff like that. Right. So some of the intended things that they wanted for the church, weren't really seen. I couldn't see it anymore, really. Of course, the family aspect was always there. The community aspect was always there. But when it came to really teaching the biblical principles and really getting to know God for yourself, I was not seeing that. Right. And so that really used to bother me. But I still stuck with it because I was I believe that, God called me to be something really great. And that God loved me. So I was going to continue to learn and grow. And so when I went to Howard, I continued that journey. And so I continue. And to this day, I'm still a practicing Christian, even though it has some negative connotations, right? Mm-hmm. But my relationship with God and, has evolved into not only something religious where you go to church every Sunday, but it is now a relationship where we talk. And, I see God is my creator and a co-creator of my experience in life. Mm-hmm. And just my guide. So I'm not out here just going from place to place and being unsure. My purpose came from my ability to build a relationship with God and to see Jesus as an opportunity to be Jesus came on earth, died for my sins and did all these different things, right? Mm-hmm. And then I'm okay. That makes me okay. That makes me worthy. That makes me everything, right. So that's something that really was, and people don't really see, they don't see how meditation and mindfulness connects with you being a Christian or being somebody who believes in God. Right. But to me, meditation is just listening.
Right.
And now what you choose to listen to is up to you.
Right. And that's what I think. I think a lot of it is people just don't understand. And it's if you don't do your research and really figure out what something is before you judge what it is, it's like you will think that it doesn't work hand in hand.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about life and about being spiritual or being religious. It's about cultivating your own personal relationship with God, source, universe, whatever name you want to give your
Right.
higher power. Is about that, your personal relationship. There's no one, I believe, there's no one direction on how your relationship with God is. And it's all about your
Mhm.
personal journey, your personal relationship, and building how you communicate with God and just your relationship. So, that's what I
Yeah.
truly, believe in. Like, even, I mean, because I've ran into, a few people from different religions, well, mainly Christianity, and not to throw shade on Christianity, but they would be
No, no,
like,
be real, be real.
but they would say like, meditation was of the devil, and meditation was this, and meditation was that, and all this negative connotations and things just connected to meditation. I'm like, what did you think Jesus was doing when he went up in the mountains?
Thank you. Thank you so much.
What
Like,
did you think
come
he was
on.
doing? He was going to himself to have some time away to really get in tune to speak with God. He was meditating. Prayer is a
Yes.
form of a meditation. So you say
Hmm.
prayer, and so I feel like sometimes it's just people just need to do research before they judge things, and that's basically it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, at the core of like spiritual practice itself
Mm-hmm.
is prayer and meditation. Prayer is the speaking and
Mm-hmm.
the meditation is the listening. That's
Right.
literally what
It
it is. And so
is.
if you think of it that way, and
Right.
also, shoot, God has definitely said some stuff to me in my meditation. He just needed me to be
Yes.
quiet enough. And I don't even say
Is.
he, but God needed me to be
Yes.
quiet
Yes.
enough in the moment
Yes.
to hear something,
Yeah, because you
And
can't
so
hear
also,
anything when you're on autopilot. You can't hear
exactly.
anything
And
when you.
meditation and mindfulness really teaches you to love yourself because you were
Right.
created for a purpose. That's
Yes.
the whole reason for my
Yes.
organization. I help
Right.
people literally cut the noise, anything
Right.
that may be noise in your life, so you can get closer to purpose. And you use mindfulness and community care and self-care as tools to help you see your purpose more clearly.
Right.
And so, I hesitate sometimes to be like, oh, yes, I'm Christian, because people can get real, kind of weird
Right.
about that. But
They
see,
do.
if you really speak to me, you know that love is at the center of everything because
Thank
that is what
you.
Jesus has called us to do.
Thank you. I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine on Sunday because we was just like going not back and forth, but she was getting up better because I call myself the meditation pusher. I'm always pushing people to
Yes,
meditate.
sure.
I'm like a drug dealer, like meditate, meditate, meditate. Like I'm always trying to get people to meditate, be mindful, just tap into their true selves of getting like figure out who you are and remember who you are and a powerful being and the God source that you are. So like we was just having that whole conversation about at the end of the day, regardless of what your religion is or what your beliefs are, the core of each religion is love. And if you believe that God is love and you believe universe, source, whatever is love, and you live your life in that manner, that's all that matters. It's about love, loving yourself, loving mankind, being a decent human being. It's about exuding love and shining your light and bringing more people to the understanding of love as much as possible, because that's what Jesus
Right.
was running around trying to do. He was trying to help everybody just find who
Mm-hmm.
they are and just love. He didn't judge.
Yeah.
He didn't judge Mary Magdalene. He didn't judge the Peter
Mm-hmm.
and Paul.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't judge anybody. So like, why are we judging? And he loved them all the same. He never turned his back on anybody. So it's just like, if you want to be in something, you have to take it all in. Take
Mm-hmm.
all of what Jesus was. He was a person of love, and just the common denominator of all the situations was love. So that's all. That's what we
Yeah.
need to do.
And yes, there are things that we are supposed to be doing, right? If you say you are Christian or if you say you are Buddhist, yeah, there are some things that they say, yes, these are things that you should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, essentially,
Mm-hmm.
love is at the core.
Right.
And God wants you to belong, to feel like you belong in this world, because you do. And then at the center of what I do is like, I want you to feel like you belong, and the belonging comes from your purpose, because everybody has one.
Right, exactly, exactly. And so, can you explain to us, because I know like some of the people that listen to my podcast are they're just in the beginning stages of meditation. So I know my meditation journey was it was very rocky, like trying to quiet my mind, trying to get to the silence, because like you spoke about, silencing the mind and just getting that peace, stopping the noise was what you said. And like that was so hard for me. And I know that that's what a lot of people struggle with, because I've had friends where one of my friends actually used to come to the house and I used to try to help him meditate and stuff like that. And it's just like that noise piece and just like explain, because some people get, discouraged when they can't quiet their mind. They think they're supposed to hear complete silence. And it's like that is not the case. So just explain what your journey was like with.
Yeah. I think my first stages of like, meditation and mindfulness were actually born out of self-care.
Okay.
Like I didn't even take I wouldn't say I took the normal route, because when I was teaching full time in the classroom, I just started discovering okay, awesome. So, but yeah, the first stages of meditation and mindfulness for me were definitely born out of self-care and the need for radical self-care in the classroom, because I was working myself way too hard. Like I love my students and I really believed in this work. So I would be at the school for 12 hours, like a day. It was really getting out of hand. And so I remember going to like a little mini vacation. I wasn't really taking vacations. That was another thing. But because they don't pay teachers enough. That's a whole nother problem that I'm going to talk about much later. And we're going to address that, because that's ridiculous. But I went to like a little, like, I think it was like one of those little 4-day weekends that they give teachers. And I went to hang out with my friend in Florida for just the weekend. I couldn't even stay very long. And we were taught, like I was getting ready to do a YouTube episode, because I'm a YouTuber. I put all of my information about mindfulness and self-care on there, just to give people more places to get like free information. But yeah, like I was there and I made an episode and I was like, you know what, we're going to talk about self-care today. And I just talked about my journey with self-care and some of the things I have been doing. And that was the moment where things started to change for me, because I started to really be more intentional about those kind of conversations. So I made my whole like brand start to be more about self-care. And the more I learned what I wanted to do, then I started saying, you know what, now I need to talk a little bit more about mindfulness. And so my first experience with meditation was actually listening to some guided meditations by like somebody I really love. I thought, she's like a self-care wellness guru for women of color. So I was like, let me listen to her. Sheila Marie. And then I ended up going to her retreat that she did. And then fast forward, I was like, this meditation thing is amazing. And I learned that meditation is not about shutting all the noise off, like you said earlier, but it's more so about focusing more so. So like choosing something to focus on. So my favorite type of meditation is future self meditation, where you use your imagination to create basically the new universe for yourself, or the new life for yourself. So if you want to be like I don't know, like the most famous doctor in the world, imagine yourself there. And then go back and imagine all the steps that you need to take to get there, and start to think about that. And then journal it out, because journaling it out will help you understand what you saw in your mind. But yeah, meditation for me has really just been about focusing myself on a specific thing, or sitting to be quiet and listen to what comes up in my spirit.
I love that. I love that, visualizing your future self. Like I used to do guided meditation, and then one of the guided meditations that I used to do with Kelly Howell, she the universal mind meditation with Kelly Howell on YouTube. I would listen to that, and it had a visualization a visualization part of the meditation, and that like what you just said, it was so true because I would visualize certain things, and girl, I swear, some of the things that I visualize manifest. Like I always say, I'm a master manifester because, like, I swear, if I think it up, it can manifest. If the universe tell me something early in the morning by the afternoon, it is here. It's kind of like I call it the Amazon of the universe. Like you think it up and it pops up. So it's like like
Yes.
so it's really, really powerful. But I need to start doing what you just said, the future me visualization, because sometimes I see it and sometimes I'm like, I don't know what the future look
Yeah.
like. So it's like, okay, I need to get on top of that. So
And
that's really good.
that's definitely something we can do in Clubhouse, because I would really love to lead like a space about that, because I've been talking about
Do it, girl.
manifestation
I
in
would
a couple
definitely
of
be
rooms.
there.
Yeah.
Yes. I would definitely be there because I swear okay, so it's like a really crazy story. No, not crazy, but it's like, okay, it may sound a little goofy. So in my meditation, my visualization, for some reason, I wanted to meet. I don't know why. I wanted to meet Tamar Braxton, and then she kept
Oh
popping up.
wow.
She kept popping up in my visualization that I wanted to meet Tamar Braxton. I'm like, Tamar, Tamar, Tamar. I'm like, why does she keep popping up in my visualization? Less than a week later, I think it might have been like a couple of days, I got an email from a PR showroom that I pulled from, and he said, "Oh, Shatanya, Tamar is coming to the showroom to launch her new collection, and they're gonna be filming it for Braxton Family Values. Do you want to come?" Of course, I want to come.
Oh my
So
goodness.
of course I want to go. So I'm like, oh my God, I was just talking about Tamar, blah, blah, blah. So I go to the thing, I go to the event. Of course, Tamar is there. Tony, that I've been obsessed with since I was a young girl, since her very first song, super obsessed with Toni Braxton, love her to death, was there, got to see her and meet the mama. Then he said, let me introduce you to Tamar. He introduced me to Tamar, and during the show, while they're filming, they said they wanted to introduce Tamar to somebody. So he said, let's introduce her to Shatanya. They introduced, yes. So I'm thinking, so they introduced me to her. I talked to her. I'm like, I love the shoes, blah, blah, love the collection, blah, blah, blah. They're filming it. Of course, I've been in many filmings before, and I always end up on the cutting room floor. A couple of months later, my cousin calls me from North Carolina, and she's like, "Oh my God, I just seen you on Tamar on Braxton Family
Oh
Virus."
wow.
I was like, "They kept it." But it just shows like how that visualization works. Like I literally manifested meeting this woman, and it was way more than I could have ever imagined because I got to meet her. I got to meet Tony, who I love, got to meet the mother, and got to be on TV with her. So it was just like, and then so many people seeing it where I'm like, I was literally up there a split second, but it was just like, it just shows how visualization does work. So away from my story.
No, that's so good. That's so good. Oh wow, that's really good.
Yeah.
That's so good. I mean, you're right. Like you have to really believe that it's possible.
Right.
And I always say, like, one of my favorite things to tell people in my mindfulness workshops is that all things are possible. Now, the part that I leave out sometimes that people need to understand is that with God and work.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? You have to include your creator, and you have to include work. So you can't just be like, oh, I'm gonna stay in and do nothing. You know what I mean? Had you not responded to the email, right? Had you not shown up, had you not done everything you needed to do, had you not been your best self that day.
Right. Exactly. Because a lot of times so many things pop in your head to try to discourage you from situations like, I'm not going to meet this person. Oh, like all these self-doubt or whatever. There's like so many, because I know this happens to me a lot. There's so many different hurdles that go on throughout the day that try to discourage you from keep going. And I swear, every time it's a situation where something is trying to discourage me from going, it turns out to, and I keep pushing, it turns out to be the most beautifulest thing. But what I did also within that whole situation, with not even that situation, but with the whole doubting and things pushing against you, I realized once you start your day off with meditation, those things don't happen. Like everything starts working like clockwork. It's divine timing. It's like everything works in perfect like magic. It's like a magical day. The bus comes exactly when you need it to come. The people are nice. Everyone is, it's kind of like a cartoon where the birds are chirping and this, that, and the third. When you start your day off right, it kind of works out those kinks of the struggle to get to something that's great that's waiting for you. And that's what I've noticed. It's like once when I started realizing like I had to do the whole shuck and jive of the day and jump over hoops and hurdles and this, that, and the third to get to the great things, I realized all I had to do was map out my day and get my routine together and get my meditation in order for that day. And then everything just worked out. Like the universe just had everything laid out for me. So that's definitely what I learned with that whole situation. But that is definitely, true what you said. But also, you know what? Because I don't want us to get off track. Like, what techniques did you use? Like, what techniques, like, okay, when your mind starts shifting and things like that, and, to keep yourself on track with being mindful and keep yourself on track with being focused. Because it sounds easy to be focused, but it's not. Like, your mind drifts. I know me, I'm greedy. So I start thinking about lunch. I'm like, oh, I got cookies in there. Like, it like all these stupid little things pop in my head. So, like, what techniques could you suggest for a person who's trying to get into this mindfulness stage or get into meditation and they keep losing focus? Or just like, what did you do? What was your process besides your visualization of your future and journaling, which was definitely another great thing? But what techniques did you use?
I think, we need to learn to like lovingly acknowledge these thoughts, right?
Okay.
So, for example, since we've been on the phone, a whole Amazon truck came up, made a bunch of noise, and left. Right? But my goal was to say, "Oh, I see it there,"
right.
And then come back to our conversation.
Right.
So acknowledge it. Say, "Hey, yeah, I see you over there.
Right. Right.
I hear you, refrigerator being loud.
Right.
I see you, oven. I know that my food is almost ready. Like, I see you, but here's where my brain is coming back to." Exactly. So one of my teachers that I've had in mindfulness-based stress reduction, one thing that he always would explain is like this idea of the puppy, right? Your mind is like a puppy. Okay. And when you're teaching a puppy, at the beginning, it is going to be all over the place, right? It's going to run away. Yes. Your job as the person that holds this mind is to go over to the puppy and lovingly bring it back. Don't yell at the puppy. Don't fuss at the puppy. Don't say, "That was terrible. Why did you do that? Stop eating up the carpet. Stop." No, because that's not going to do anything. That puppy don't know what you're talking about. At all. So you go get the puppy. You bring the puppy back. Put him down. Right. Where you left off. And continue again. Right. And the puppy going to run off again. But go lovingly bring it back. That's so come on true. Over here again. And do it as many times as you need to. Exactly. And yes, it's frustrating at first, but you have to build a habit. You're asking your brain to do something that it is not used to do. At all. No, it's so true. And it's and that's the thing that we got to understand too. Our brain is wired to worry, is wired to bring up old facts like fake news. It's because I swear, like, regardless of what that man was talking about, I swear the mind is the fake news creator, because it'll tell you how you suck at everything. It'll tell you about all the horrible things that's gonna happen. And it's like, it is that is the fake news that's really going on. The stuff that your mind keeps pumping in your head. And it's like being able, like you said, being able to control it and bring it back and nicely, softly bring it back and not beat yourself up. Just like, okay, I acknowledge that I drifted. I acknowledge that I was thinking about cookies, and this is not the cookie moment. Like, I noticed, like, it's so true. That is like, that is definitely what I've had. That was my journey when I first started meditating. Like, my nose, like, oh God, my face is itching. My nose is itching. What's going on? Oh God. Oh God. All right, focus, refocus. It's just like, oh God. So, like, yeah, totally what you just said of just bringing yourself back to, that mindful place and, being gentle with yourself. Yeah, and being gentle every single time. And that also, right, also is a space where we're going to need a lot of growth at the beginning because we're not used to lovingly fixing problems. We are used to telling ourselves, now, didn't we already talk about this?
Right.
This is the
Reprimanding
whole reason why it's
yourself.
hard for us to forgive other people because we are so rough and so aggressive with ourselves in our minds.
Right.
So that's one thing I would say. The other thing I would say is when it comes to like just mindfulness in general, like you have to like infuse your day with things throughout the day. So like one of the things I do is a mindful morning. I have a whole mindful morning routine.
Me too.
Yeah, and some of the things that I tell people, and I recently talked about this on my Instagram. So if you want a full version of how to do it, I talk about it on Instagram, but I got an even better version of it on YouTube.
Okay.
So yeah, on YouTube, I just talk about like that first 5 minutes of your day is probably the most critical because that first 5 minutes you need to sit in silence.
Right.
And let whatever comes up for you come up for you. And set your intention for the day. That's a huge piece because whatever you set your intention is something that's going to show up throughout the day. So this morning mine was to breathe and affirm. So I had to remember to affirm and have patience. Oh goodness, yes, patience.
Yes.
But throughout the day you have to ask yourself, okay, so where is my breathing? Okay, I'm checking in with my breathing. Where is affirmation? Am I affirming myself? Am I affirming my situation? Right? And then the last thing is to have patience. So where can I find patience? Like present to me opportunities to be patient today. And that I'm telling you, be careful what you ask for because everything that you ask for in the morning tends to just pop up throughout the day. And if you pay attention and even be practical, put reminders in your phone, like for your intention, put reminders in your phone to breathe. Like it's okay to use practical, like everything not going to be super spiritual, right?
Right. No, it's not.
You're in the beginning stages. And even if you're not beginning, you might be where I am and still need a reminder.
You
yes,
do.
That's okay.
You do. I've been meditation. I've been meditating for years and I be having to like really check myself and get myself back in order and like that monkey mind comes in or that self-doubt or you start abusing yourself and saying unkind things to yourself and comparing your journey to the next person's journey and this, that, and the third, which will always send you down a rabbit hole. And it's so true. Sometimes you really have to, I sometimes, like, if I get off track, I really have to start back from the beginning stages of my meditation and remember, okay, this is what you did and this was the results that you got. Why did you stop doing it? Because sometimes we get so high on a flying disc of, creation and like, oh, I'm so in tune and I'm this and I got this. And then we start losing our practice and we don't go back. We, lose our routine. And then we got to remember, we got to go back to our routine. Like even like today, you speak of the morning routine. I knew I wanted to be in a great place for our talk today. And I knew I wanted to be in a great energy. And I know I wanted to be speaking from my highest self and being my best place. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to dedicate, my mind is a little all over the place, but I'm going to dedicate my shower to my mindfulness meditation shower. So I took the longest mindfulness shower, playing my music and burning my candles and just being so mindful in the shower. And it's just breathing and taking in the lavender and this, that, and the third, and just having that 30 minutes to myself in the shower. It was just amazing. And it's like you don't have to lay down and have a pillow, get into a yoga pose, stand on your head. You don't need, to be surrounded by crystals and this, that, and the third. Sometimes it could just be in the shower, just taking that time to yourself. And like Kiana said, just taken that moment, that 5 minutes to breathe, that 5 minutes to like really register and get with yourself is so powerful.
Yeah. And it really doesn't have to be, my sister jokingly says like woo woo. That's her way of saying spiritual. But like it doesn't have to be overly like in that higher consciousness. Sometimes it's just the practical things because that sets you up to vibrate a little higher every single day. But you can't vibrate higher or have a higher level of consciousness or get closer to God or divine or whatever you deem divine. You can't do any of that if you won't do the practical things that it takes, right? Because the first time you were introduced to mindfulness or just the idea of meditating or the idea of getting in tune with yourself was probably from a practical encounter. It probably wasn't from God didn't probably come down on a cloud and be like, hey,
no, not at all.
Be mindful. You know what I mean? Something probably happened in your life where you needed to be more mindful. Yes. And then you probably started to lean in and be like, oh, let me, or they heard this podcast. Right? That's practical.
Exactly. And I always say, if you are right here, right now, and you are listening to this and you are listening to this podcast or any other podcast or wherever, it's just even like us, meeting in the clubhouse, it's just like that is what the universe needed you to hear for that moment in that time. That was your door opener to, your next step, your next stage. And it's just like, it's no coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences. I think everything happens for a reason. Everything is divinely in alignment. And you're hearing it because you're supposed to. You're hearing it because it's a message for you. And it's either this is the journey that you're on or it's the journey that you need to get on. So that's basically what I feel like, everything is. So with that, now you spoke about the puppy, and the puppy is definitely a lot where I always refer to kids and dogs as the same. So how is it that you can, like, how do you get the children to focus, and like what techniques do you use with them? Because I know I heard you mention one technique and I thought that was just so amazing, but how do you get the children to focus and teach them about mindfulness? Now, I know you teach it in school, but was it something that was already set up in the school, or was something that you say, you know what, let's implement this, and you presented it to the school? Like, how did that all come about with you teaching mindfulness to the children? Because I definitely feel like that's something great that needed to be done. So can you talk to us about that, about your journey with moving this practice in with the children?
Sure. I'm going to be honest and say that a lot of schools are not, in the practice of acknowledging the importance of making sure a child is okay within themselves before the academics, because schools are under a lot of pressure to teach to these tests and so many other things, right? And so there are a lot of teachers that go into schools with really good intentions and then end up having it kind of snuffed out because of the system. And so as somebody who really was fighting against the system, during my time in the education system altogether, I learned quickly that mindfulness needed to be there. I mean, I'm not saying that no schools are practicing it, because that's not the case. There are some schools that are doing it, but they're not dedicating. Most schools are not dedicating enough time. Mm-hmm. There should be a paid position at every school. Every school should have a dedicated person, not just the school counselor, not just the psychologist, but they should have a dedicated team of folks that focus on making sure that kids are okay within themselves. Because when the schools are thriving, when schools are well, the whole community can be well, because the school feeds the community.
Right.
And so I would just say that, like, helping kids to focus on that is something that I take to heart, and I think it's really important. But yeah, like, the whole reason I got involved and got started is because I taught in the school. I think that is the most critical piece of my training in my life, because everything I learned in teaching, people have no idea. You have to be 10 different things at one time as a teacher. I learned how to multitask, how to build relationships with any kind of person, how to be a motivator and encourager, be nurturing, be honest, problem solve, teach other people how to problem solve, be a mindful communicator. Ooh, yes, because you got to be gentle. I had third graders.
Wow.
Okay. But also though, I was the type of teacher that would work with any child. So if a child is in the hallway crying on the floor, and that's a 3-year-old, right? Because we have pre-K 3 and pre-K 4 in our building. Or if the child is a 5th grader, right? I got a 5th grader that's on the floor. But even so, I talked to you about how I worked with freedom schools, children in freedom schools. I worked with them, and I had high school students, right? And so even then, they would be ready to fight. What do I do now? Like, how do we resolve this conflict? Because you can't just let it happen, you know? And so being mindful in schools and just teaching mindfulness to both children and like what I would call young adults, because high schoolers are basically, really ready to go out into the world, or we should be making them ready to, right?
Exactly.
For me, it's about giving them a toolbox. Because at the end of the day, kids need to have things that they can do. So I teach them about self-regulation, how to be more thoughtful, how to calm themselves, being self-soothing, like being a self-soother. Like, you should not need somebody else to calm you when you get older. Like, yeah, right now it's fine. But when you get older, you really, unless it's more than okay to get a therapist. Like, you should have that.
Right, because no one's going to grab you up and hug you.
I want you to be able to be okay. You know what I mean?
That's true. As an adult, no one's grabbing you up at the office and giving you a big hug and rocking you till you feel better. Like, that's not happening. As a kid, that happens. But, it's true. You do need to learn how to self-soothe early. No.
Yeah, and even with kids, like, to be honest, there are some kids that have never gotten that kind of soothing, like the soothing you just talked about. There's some kids in schools that are not getting at it. You're going to some of these schools, there are some people there that should not be working with children. And that is just the honest to God truth. And that is what I've experienced as somebody who's been in a lot of different schools. And being well trained in education, just watching how people respond to children and being just, but that's neither here nor there. But one of the major things I do is to just make sure they have a toolbox and use their interest to help them understand mindfulness. So if they are into basketball, guess what? We're going to do basketball mindfulness, baby. Like, we got to be we're going to look at the texture of the ball. We're going to talk about how tall it bounces. We're going to do everything we can to set them up for success. Like, I actually just did a workshop with some high school students. What's today? Wednesday? On Monday. I did it on Monday. And I spent the whole day with some kids from my hometown and with one of my educator friends who hired me to do it. And I literally worked with them on like understanding, the kind of adversity that we go through and working through that. But I used music as the center, because kids of color tend to lean towards music as a guide when it comes to mindfulness. And so, yeah, girl, oh my goodness, you use music with kids. Especially, and I'm like I said, I'm an expert in Black kids because that has been my experience, but I work with any child because a child is a child is a child. But I think, my version of mindfulness is about being culturally relevant. So what does their culture say that they need in order to receive what you have to say? And in the Black culture, music is a beautiful, big part of what we see as important and what we see as value. And so you use music to kind of help them understand things. Different songs communicate different messages, and those messages can help you understand more about yourself. And then you can create your own, whatever works for you, right? And so I think using kids' interest and really just getting to the core of what they care about and using their imaginations, right? Like, their imaginations are even more vivid than ours. So their future selves could be something that you wouldn't even imagine because they have the imagination. It hasn't been killed yet by society. Hopefully, because some of our Black kids, because they've seen how we've been treated in the world, already lost their imagination, their ability to imagine. And so we have to sometimes cultivate it to come back.
Right. No, it's so true. It's so true. And it's like, and that's the reason why I'm like so, excited about what you do. And I love what you do so much because I feel like that is where it should start. Because I think back to, like, we talking about little Kiana and, little Shatanya, where we were basically trained against our imagination, trained against our emotions, trained against, you know, just being able to dream big, because and a lot of times, like, the people around us, they didn't mean to do it. They just was trying to teach us. They didn't want to set us up. They
Mhm.
felt like they were protecting us by saying, well, this is what life is for you, this is what's going to happen, this is what you can achieve, and this is what you can't achieve. But it's like, it's damaging, because if you don't allow a child to dream big, or to, to just dream big, or to live their happy selves, be their happy selves. Like, children just love to laugh, be happy. I feel like they're in the greatest position, between kids and dogs are in the greatest position ever, because they just live. They just are
Mm.
free. They're just happy, no inhibitions. I remember there was nothing that I believed that I couldn't do. There was nothing I believed that I couldn't have. I remember talking as a child, and I'm like, yeah, when I get my mansion, it's gonna have an elevator. When I get my mansion, I'm gonna do, like,
Right.
as a little kid, I'm just saying, when I be rich, when I be famous, when I do this, when I travel here, and I'm a kid. But it's like, if you can dream it up, the universe can, can make it happen for you. But a lot of times, because of their surroundings and whoever, whatever their parents went through, or their teachers, or whoever was around them, sometimes they start chipping away at that. And
Mhm. Mhm.
the kids lose their innocence, they lose their, just that gusto for life. And it's just like, it's so good that, someone is grabbing them now, and like, hey, okay, bringing them back to who they truly are, like their power of imagination, their power of teaching them, reminding them. Because I feel like when we came to this planet, these were the things that we knew, but as time went on,
Mhm.
we got
Mhm.
pushed away from it. Because when I'm sure, like, when you meditate and you get into mindfulness, it's like, it's not even like it's something brand new to you. It's like, it's a reminder, like, oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like, we already knew this when we got here. When we was that baby in the hospital, we knew all this stuff. But as time went on, it got chipped away at us. And I feel like grabbing them at a young age, especially at the age, the grades that you were working at, like, that's like grabbing them right before it got crazy. Like, hey, remember this. So, like, I
Mhm.
love what you're doing. And it's so true. Like, I mean, and like, so, okay, say you have parents right now who their kids, because like you mentioned, like, not all the schools have it. If their child doesn't have this in their school, this resource in their school, what can they do at home, to try to get these children into being mindful, get them into
Yeah.
a meditative state, get them, just get a hold of their brains of self-soothing, and knowing that they're like unstoppable. Like, what little techniques can they do, especially now that the parents are at home with their kids, and they have, I know for them, they feel like, unfortunately, become teachers because, like, now they
Mhm.
have to.
Yeah.
So, like, what can they do with their kids? Like, what, I know you mentioned, like, basketball and music or whatever, but what can they use is just in their house, like, every day, that can help them out to get these
Yeah.
children on this journey?
The first thing I will say is, if there is nobody in their school, or if their mindfulness is not being practiced in their school, parents, you need to advocate for it. Because
Right.
schools tend to not take anything seriously until parents are like, no, we need this now. Like, this is
Right.
important. Because
Right.
they will hire me, and I will be there every week if they want
Right.
me there.
Exactly.
They
Exactly.
prioritize what they care about. They put their
Mhm.
money where they care about. So if you care about this and you want them to do something about it, it is your child's school. That is your community, and you deserve it, and so does your child. Because what happens is, when your child becomes more mindful, so do you. Your
Yeah.
life will get easier. You'll have less arguments in the house, just a lot of different things. But I
Yeah, I
think
was gonna.
the best place to start is mindful communication.
Okay.
I don't think that is a beautiful place to start in the household. So instead of, one thing that parents can do is to sit and explain things to kids rather than giving a directive or an order.
Right.
Sit down and explain to kids why something is about to happen and what they're about to do.
Right.
And then have the child repeat what they said. So what I heard you say was, so for example, we're upset about you not making your bed.
Right.
So I asked you to make your bed. And this is not you being like, oh, letting your child run over you. No.
Right.
This is a way of showing your child how to be responsible with themselves and what they say and what they say they're going to do.
Right.
So, you know, you'll say to your child, you sit them down and say, hey, you were supposed to make your bed. And we decided that making your bed is a part of making sure that your room is an organized place. Because guess what? When your room is unorganized, then your thoughts are too. And do we want unorganized thoughts? Right. No. Because we want to be able to understand what we need to do for the day. And also when you get home, then you'll just be able to get straight in the bed, no worrying about the mess or anything like that.
Right.
And then, so what did I just say? Well, can you repeat some of the things that I said? What I heard you say was, blah, 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 blah. And depending on how young they are, they can tell you pieces of it. If you start them young, they'll be able to really respond to you so that they know what's going on. And then going even deeper, really try to understand why it is that your child may be upset, rather than being like, why are you crying?
Right.
Oh, it's okay to cry, but I want to know what happened so I can help you.
Right, right.
And so being more gentle, honestly, with your children. And it's like, once again, you know, it's not letting a child walk all over you or nothing like that. But it shouldn't be a power struggle in your home.
Right.
You know, because there is no power in the house. Yes, children obey your parents. Yes, they should. They should do what you ask them to do. Why? Because you know more than they do. Right. And you care about them. Right. And you want them to be okay. And so, yes, they should listen to you. But helping them understand why they should will help them be more, when they go into schools, they'll deal with their teachers differently because they know how you speak to them at home. And they won't allow people in the school to speak to them any kind of way. As a matter of fact, you'll start to alter how the school operates because at home, you've already started to work. So that's one thing I would say. Another thing is just checking in with them 3 times a day. Since y'all at home anyway.
Right.
Set a timer.
Right.
Set a timer. Listen, set a timer. And in the morning, do a quick little breathing. 1, 2, 3 in. 1, 2, 3 out. Right. Super easy. Inhale for 3, exhale for 3. Right. And then do some affirmations.
Right.
Great things are coming today. Right. I am powerful. I am grateful. Right. My home is a place where I feel safe. Like, these are things you can say with them. And then midday, mindfully eat your lunch together. Like, if y'all have the same lunchtime. If not, I understand, you know, because life is life. Right. But mindfully eat, like, slow down and say, like, what are you tasting? Right. What does it taste like? What's your favorite part of this meal? Like, really just sitting with them and trying to find out. And you get to know them better, too. Like, it's crazy. If you sit with children and just really listen to them, they'll tell you all the business. Right. Like, they'll let you know somebody said something to them. But if you never make time, you find out stuff from the teacher. And you're like, well, I didn't even know that about my child.
Exactly. And that's the thing. And I feel like, and you know, sadly, and this is just me speaking from my own experience, I feel like a lot of times, especially in the Black community, our parents don't take out the time to talk to us. They don't communicate with us. Because I know growing up with me, I was talked at and I was given directions, and that was it. It was like basically like you was in boot camp. And it's like, talk to your children. Build a relationship with your children. Do you know your children? Do you know what they like? Do you know their favorite colors? Do you know who their friends are? Like, do you have a relationship with your children? Do you talk to them? Do you have conversations? Is there open dialogue? So a lot of like the techniques that I heard you saying was basically just communicating with your kids. And a lot of times there's so many people who don't. They don't communicate with their children. Your children are not just there for you to just raise and you know, these little soldiers that's a part of your troop. They're little human beings that you're building, and the more you know them and the more you take time to, and I feel like the younger you start, the better. Like, I feel like if this child is 2, 3 years old, I feel like you're creating such a greater human being the earlier you start. I mean, if you starting now and as teenagers, whatever, but at least you're starting. But I feel like the younger you start, the better, because like Now the child know that this is the routine of the household. Like 3 times a day, we're going to check in. This is what we're doing. This is the line of communication that we have. I can feel free to talk to mommy about this. I can feel free to talk to daddy about this. Daddy's not the villain. Mommy's not the villain. I don't have to hide things from my parent because we have an open dialogue. And that's what
Right.
I like that I took from what you said. And that's what I love. I feel like we do need open dialogues with our children. Like we need to be able to talk to them and they need to feel comfortable to talk with us and
Yeah.
just bringing them that peace. I love that.
And one thing my mom used to do is like when we got in the car, she would pick us up from school, and the age difference between like my sister and I'm the youngest, like I said earlier. There's a 2.5-year age difference between my sister and I, and my brother passed within the last few years, so he that's been really hard. But the age difference between he and I was 5 years, so it was like a big, there was some really a jump because when I was 5, when he was 5, I was coming into the world, right? He'd already seen quite a bit.
Right.
So, but yeah, like she would say, 1, 2, 3, go. And she would tell my sister to talk. She would let her talk as long as she wanted about her day, like tell as much as she could. Then she would be like, okay, Kenny, it's your turn. So my brother would talk and just be talking, tell him about his day. And then she'd be like, all right, Kiana, it's your turn. Boom, boom, boom. I would be talking, just tell him about my day. And that was like a time for us to like get it all out. Not only did my mom and I, continue to get a stronger relationship because she was asking about our day, but I also got to hear about my siblings' day. So I knew what was going on with them too, so I could have a better idea of what they may have been going through and why they may have to respond to me a certain way, or whatever. Even as a little something, that was the start. And so I think, just simple things, but also like using things around you, right? They have coloring books. I'm sure pretty much almost every child has a coloring book. Even if they don't, get some colors and a white piece of paper and turn on some type of soft, calm music, and let them just color. Like let them just have a moment where they're just chilling out, relaxing, and then ask them like, why did you choose that color when they're done? Like let's have their quiet moment, and then say like, why did you choose that color? What about that color? Like, is the reason you chose that color? And just helping them understand like this is your personal time. I'm gonna let you have your personal time. I'll be back, okay? Like letting kids know that they can practice self-care starting at the earliest of ages and going all the way up until they go on the glory, as people would say. Like even if they die,
Right. I love that. That's amazing. I love that your mother used to do that with you and your siblings. That's so sweet. I love that. That is so nice. No, those are definitely great things that I think that, the parents listening can actually start implementing into, first of all, and then to give the kids something to do because I'm like, I know a lot of parents, especially right now, are running out of things to do. Like, what the heck am I going to do with these daggone kids? That is something to do.
Video games are not the answer. I know they love them, but they need breaks from them because I'm going to tell you, most video games are violent now.
They're super violent. I was at
what is happening?
It's crazy. I was at my friend's house and her son, he's 18. And so I hadn't seen a video game since I played video games. And that was, I know I'm aging myself, but this was like Super Nintendo, Atari. That was my.
No, I love that. That was the generation right there.
Exactly. So I haven't seen a video game since then. So when I was at their house and he was playing this violent game, shooting people's heads off, and it was so 3-dimensional. It was like a movie. I was like, "Is this a movie?" He said it was a video game, and I said, "That's a video game." He said, "Yeah," and I was like, "Well, why are they just running around killing folks? Like this is crazy. Just like you can have a nightmare watching these video games." It's like. My children would not be playing these video games. Like it's just a hot mess. Unless it's about a video game about meditation, then let's do that. Maybe somebody need to create that one. Maybe it need to be you, girl. Maybe you need to create a mindfulness video game, a meditation video game or something like that. But also, I wanted to talk to you because I know that you are a big advocate for fighting lupus. So is that a personal battle? Like, do you have lupus or someone in your family have lupus, or is it just something that you saw that you wanted to just be a part of, fighting lupus?
I was actually diagnosed with lupus 2 weeks before my 18th birthday.
Wow.
I was a high school senior in Arkansas, preparing to go to Howard. I was already accepted, had a scholarship, just feeling great. I was a very active student. I was in everything. I was in the band, and if you know anything about Black bands, we were very, very active, running and all kinds, marching everywhere, being in everybody's parade. Right. And I was a drum major, so I was leading, and I just enjoyed myself in high school. And then I find this news out right before a choir concert we were supposed to have, and it was really hard for me. But what I learned from lupus and just living with it since I was 17, almost 18, is that radical self-care is at the center of me fighting this thing. So I learned that I needed to share my story and show people that you can continue going even if you have like this huge ailment, and that I won't always have it. I trust for healing one day, but right now I'm going to take what I know and what I do and what I can do and really tell people about it and share my journey. And I even talk about it on my YouTube channel because I just think it's important for people to know. And I think vulnerability and transparency, with discernment, of course, is some of those tools that you can use within your life to free yourself. Because if I don't talk about it ever, then people don't understand how resilient I've had to be. Right. I've had to be extremely resilient even today. Like, lupus causes a bunch of crazy stuff to happen to your body that you don't always understand. Like, I spent the majority of my morning getting blood drawn. Wow. So I slept the rest of the day because when they take blood from me, I'm just tired, And so these are the things that I like to share, not for for people's pity. I really don't want that, but like for your opportunity to show, like, I'm resilient and you can be too.
Right. Exactly. And then I know with because a friend of mine, the one Shani Asha, who invited me to Clubhouse, she deals with chronic pain and chronic illness, and meditation was definitely one of the things that helped her with the pain. And I've heard from I heard that lupus is it lupus that or sickle cell anemia that's very painful? So is it a painful sickness or
it can be. Okay. It can be because what it does is lupus is an autoimmune disease, so it attacks your immune system, attacks itself. Like it basically turns on itself and is overactive. That's the problem. It doesn't. It normal immune systems do what they need to do, but ours literally does the most. Like I like to say that it just does the most. Like bro,
it's like fighting.
Body. Like, I'm fine. You don't need to fight this. This is actually a healthy thing. Like, stop fighting this thing.
Exactly.
And so, yes, it can get my issues have been like with joint pain, and so like sometimes most recently I've had some back problems. And, it's so crazy because I'm a dancer. So all these things conflict with each other, but somehow, some way, the divine decides to continue to bless me to be able to do all the things. Lupus has never stopped me from doing that thing. Granted, it's put me in the hospital before. I'm on medication. Like, I'm doing all the things. And in the holistic health world, it's like almost a sin to be on prescription drugs. But I got to do what works for me until I've been slowly implementing more holistic things, like certain supplements and certain things and herbs and things like that I feel like I can slowly implement. But you have to be careful with that stuff because everybody doesn't know what they're talking about.
Right. That is true.
So, but it can be painful. And on the days where it's painful, leaning into radical self-care has been my saving grace.
Right. Okay.
Because you have to say, you know what, I need to lay down. Like after yesterday, when I got all that blood drawn, I was like, I don't really want to lay down.
Right.
But I have people like my mom and my friends who say, remember what you say about radical self-care. Like they have to remind me about what I've been telling everybody.
Right.
But that's a good thing though, because you have those people that are like remind you of these things. And in order for you to do this job the way it needs to be done, you have to truly be practicing it in your own life.
Right. And it's so crazy because I think a friend of mine, Me and her were having this conversation. It's so crazy how sometimes we feel guilty taking out time for ourselves. We
Yes,
feel guilty
yes.
not to just like a self-care day of like a day of doing nothing. I'm just going to lay here and watch TV. I'm just going to lay here and relax. We feel so guilty because we're so action oriented that we feel like
Uh-huh.
we need to be doing something. And it's like, you don't have to. It's okay to sit down. If this pandemic didn't teach you anything, it should have taught you that it's okay to sit down. It's okay to do
Yes.
nothing. It's okay. Life will still go on. The world will still rotate. No one will, will come and knock on your door, be like, hey, I heard you didn't make up your bed today. That's not happening. You're not going to get arrested. Like, no one is keeping track of what you did. There's no email that you got to send out that said, okay, I did X, Y, and Z today. I swept my living room. I made dinner. I washed the dishes. No, if you don't want to wash the dishes today, don't. You don't have to. If you don't want to make up your bed today, you don't have to. Like, it's okay. You know, it's okay to
Yeah.
just live life and be fine. Light a candle and look at the ceiling. It's okay. So it's like
And to understand too, like rest is productive.
it
Anybody that told
is.
you that it is not, rest is divine. It is
Right.
literally a divine act because that is when you get to hear. You can't hear anything when you constantly.
Yes, exactly what you were just saying. Like, it's okay to what you were saying. Like, just repeat what you said about
Oh yes, rest is divine. Rest is productive, and you cannot like the reason rest is so divine
mm,
is because you can't hear anything when you're constantly getting up and going. I call it sacred silence. Get you some
yes.
sacred silence.
Yes, the universe can't sneak those little nuggets in of not like sometimes it's like the biggest inspiration come well, not sometimes, all the time. The biggest inspiration comes when you get quiet. Because if you're
Mm-hmm.
on autopilot and you running around and you doing this and you doing that, when can the universe, when can God talk to you and share with you what your next steps are or or share an idea with you? Like how can that be given to you if you don't sit down and relax, if you don't sit down and rest? Like it is okay to do nothing. It's okay. Don't feel guilty that you didn't do anything. Don't feel guilty that you didn't find the cure for cancer today, that you didn't save a bunch of people from a burning building today. It's okay. It's fine. Like no one is judging you. Stop judging yourself because I know I judge myself and I'll do comparisons like, oh, I didn't do this today and I didn't record my podcast today and I didn't do this. And I like, it's okay. It's fine. You'll get to it. You'll get to it tomorrow. This is my thing. And I feel like a lot of times we don't, and I mean, and this is just my idea. Well, not my idea, but I know other people agree with it too. Like, time is eternal. And there's no rush to doing things or achieving things. There's no time shortageness because I feel like I that's the journey that I have been on for the past couple of years of time shortageness, thinking like time is running out and things have to be done at a certain time or a certain day. Like I mean, you could set your goals, but at the end of the day, if you don't feel up to doing something and you feel and the spirit is telling you just lay in your bed, it's okay. Like it is really
Mm-hmm.
okay to just take care of yourself, to take a long shower, to take a bubble bath, to light a candle, to relax. It's okay because it's like that comes with self-care and that comes with mindfulness. So it's okay to just relax and chill out. And I got all at the pulpit with this one, but it was just like it was just something that really speaks to me because it's like we especially if anyone who's dealing with chronic illness or dealing with pain and things like that, it is okay to just relax and let your body just regenerate, just recharge or whatever. So that is
Yeah.
definitely something that we need to take with us. And so I know you have a lot of different missions and support groups and things like that and like your organization. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that and just like, how people can be a part of it, or where can they listen to it, and just tell us about that so people can join you on your journey and listen and get some more mindfulness tips about for their kids, help these kids out, because a lot of the children are really suffering during this time too, and sometimes we forget about them because of the fact that we're thinking about, okay, how are we going to pay the bills, how are we going to get it, like how are we going to work, but the children are struggling too. And this is definitely something that we need to take a step back and think about, take away from us and start like pouring into them. So like
Yeah.
tell us about your groups and things like that, and how people can get involved or just learn more.
Sure. I have a lot of ways to like. I'm truly an educator at heart, so I give you multiple. What we used to say in the classroom was multiple opportunities for success.
Okay.
Or multiple avenues. So, for example, like if you are a visual learner, then hey, YouTube is your place.
Okay.
If you look me up, Kiana Cole, and you'll find a series of YouTube episodes about different things in the realm of mindfulness and in self-care and community care, even the most practical things like ghosting. Like what is mindful about that? What can we say about that? So I try to give you as much like real deal information as I can. So that's a good place to find me. I have my website where you can sign up for a consultation, and I can curate some meditation for you or for your children. And I can, you can reach out to me about that. There's a lot of like options. Like I can curate affirmations. I do just pretty much anything in the realm of mindfulness that you need, I can do. Instagram, great place to follow my day-to-day things. I do IG lives every Thursday. So that's a place where you can find me at Kicking It with Key _ And yeah, all of that is like, if you go to like my YouTube, you can my Instagram, you can easily find all the links to everything I do. Same thing on Clubhouse. Twitter, you can find me at Key Kicking. Same thing. I give all the tips and tea on there as well. I create playlists. So a playlist for every mood, peace of mind, meditation playlist, self-care, self-love playlist, just playlists to help you do some of the things that I say that you should be doing. And just honestly, on Clubhouse, I do a lot of different kinds of rooms. So just to help people kind of work through. But my brand is called Kicking It with Key. So everything you need from me, you'll be able to find under that name. But yeah, like my mission is always going to be to put mindfulness, self-care, and community care at the center of people's lives. Because when you're well, everybody else can be well too. Because when you're good, you're out in the world being good. And so that's really it. Like, there are a lot of things that I want to do for teachers and students, for Black women. And also, oh gosh, I can't forget this. I host something called Pack Light Workshop, where I help people unload some of the things that they're going through. We already had our first part of the series. I really want to help people pack light, like Eric Badu talks about.
Exactly. Yeah. Can you explain pack light again? Just like what that process is, what that what like the series, like what it's about. Unpacking.
It is a self-care workshop where it helps you with practical tips on how to pack light on your journey through life. And so we have different focuses. The first workshop was really focused on the whole idea of packing your bag and what it looks like when you get dressed and all of these different things that happen in your life, but like taking it metaphorically and saying like, what's in your bag? Like, what have you put in your bag that you need to take out, and what do you need to put in? And so during our time, we spent a lot of time on what it looks like to use different tools in our lives to get to where we want to go. And Future Self was actually a part of that journey that we had together, because I just think it is so critical for us to find time to sift through the things that have happened in our lives. And it's not to say that you have to stay there. It's an opportunity for you to evaluate what happened so that you can move forward.
Right.
And so really just making space for you to process some of the things that you've experienced and continue being your awesome self.
Right.
With self-care at the center, though.
I I
So yeah.
love that. Yeah, I totally love that, and that's something I'm gonna have to log into and listen with you and unpack all this
Yes.
crap that I got going on. So, because I know we all got, and it's so funny. I was just talking to a friend, and because as a stylist, I used to always have to be dragging bags around, and I used to always call myself the bag lady, and just like cracking up, with the whole Erica Badu song. And it was just like basically like we were having the conversation of, yeah, now I'm on like getting rid of the metaphorical bags of life. I got rid of the fashion bags and all the garment bags. Now it's the other bags to dump. So I totally feel you on that one.
Yeah.
But
And even just creating a space to move mindfully through your life. That's really what Pack Light is about. And I use a lot of different avenues to help you get there. There's usually 3 parts to my workshops.
Right.
The first part, we looked at the past. The middle part, we look at the present. And in the end, we look at the future. And so just helping you, when you walk away from my workshop, you're not going to walk away saying, oh, that was nice. Right. You're going to walk away with like, dang, I need to try this tip today.
Exactly. I love that. Yeah. Thank you so much for taking this time. I dragged you along this journey for a long time. But it's been such an amazing conversation, and you definitely left everybody with some amazing nuggets that they can use in their life right now or use in the future. If you're about to have a baby, that's even better. So as soon as that baby get out here, you make that baby be mindful. So I'm loving it. Thank you so much for, just taking the time and sharing all, your knowledge with us. And I really hope that we could talk more and you do that clubhouse and I'll definitely be tuned in, and I'm definitely going to go on your YouTubes and look at some of your mindful videos. And everybody else, kicking it with Kiki's kicking it with Key. What am I talking about? Kicking it with Key.
You're thinking about little Kiki.
Exactly. Yes.
Baby Key.
Yes, exactly. So look her up and get on your mindfulness journey. Get your children on their mindfulness journey. And let's do this. Let's be better human beings. Let's be happy people. Let's get into our routine and let's just glow. Let's just shine. And I hope you guys enjoyed this, and hopefully we'll be talking to you guys soon again. All right?
Yes. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.